Okay, so you guys have already cut out your pieces. You have already played around with the spacers to kind of establish some layers and get that set. What you're going to do today is kind of prepare for construction. So the first thing I want to show you is taking your base. So this is the bottom level of my design. Okay, this was the big shape that I traced all around the perimeter. This is my base shape that everything stacks on top of. You're going to start off by attaching that to the mask form. All right, so first thing you want to do I always like to test things out before I do it. So first thing you're going to do is kind of test it on there, see how it fits. As you can see, my base does not quite fit all the way to the edges of my mask form, and that's okay. Yours might not either. When we traced these originally, you had the mask like this, so we didn't really we didn't compensate for like the curvature of the mask, which is fine. It's not a big deal. So I'm going to test this out first. What I want to make sure of is that the bottom of the mask is covered, that this goes up past the top of the mask. And I am going to grab a pencil and hold this in place and use my third hand that I wish I had sometimes. I'm just going to mark right here kind of where this goes. And then I'm going to mark it over here. This is just going to give me establish kind of where it is so that I know where to put the glue. Okay, so the way I'm holding this, just so you guys can see it for reference. So I'm holding this so it's stretched out, and you can see down there, see the nose. It's going to be bowed out. The nose is going to push it forward, but that's going to give it a nice arc. So, from the underside. So I'm really gluing just along the sides. I don't have to glue it all the way down to here. If you wanted to give it some more shape, I could, but I'm just going to put some glue in here. So I marked those spots on the mask form so that I know that I want to put glue just in these areas. Okay, here's the thing about the glue. Number one, we've got this nice tacky glue, which is great for this kind of process because it's a little stickier than regular Elmer's glue. It's a little thicker. Less is more with the glue. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue here, a little bit of glue along the side where I know it's going to attach. I'm going to put a little here, a little up here. Oh, it should have said, before I do this though, I've already done this. I suggest you get yourself some tape. So you've got some Scotch tape, in your little kit. Cut yourself, I don't know, maybe 4 pieces of tape, because it's going to take a little time for this glue to dry. So cut yourself some tape, and then I'm going to set this down and kind of get it lined up where I want it. Push down the glue a little bit. If it pulls up, that's fine, because actually if the glue gets a little tackier, it's better. So I'm going to just check to see if it's still covering what I want it to cover. I think I'm going to scoot it down a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to hold it for, I don't know, count to 10. That's what they used to teach in kindergarten class. Glue something and hold it and count to 10. So I'm going to take the tape and I'm just going to lightly put it a little bit on the Bristol board paper, but mostly I'm going to wrap it around to the other side. I don't want to have the Bristol board tear, but I do want to hold this in place until that glue dries. So the first thing you're going to do is get this going so it can, you can set it off to the side and let it dry. Okay, so this is set. This is going to be the base, and then this piece needs to really be dry. So the reason I'm um, emphasizing that is because some of you might not get to this point today, and I do not want wet glue when we go to do the next step. So you need to make sure that these pieces get dry. So the next thing you're going to do is take your other pieces and start putting the spacers on. Okay, so you're going to think about where your pieces are going to touch each other, like where this piece and the spacers are going to touch the previous layer. So what I did on my design is I took my template and I wrote down, okay, my base obviously gets glued directly to the mask form, and I wanted one spacer underneath the crown. I wanted one spacer underneath this band, but I want the face to be raised up over the crown area. This band is glued to my face piece. So the face piece has 2 spacers. I decided to create a new layer. So I'm making a new layer that's going to sit underneath all of those face pieces just to give myself a little more height. So you might find as you start working with these things, you want to add a layer, that's fine. You can edit your design a little bit and give it more height because we don't want pieces glued directly to other layers. We want everything to have height. We also don't want pieces that have like 100 layers of things so that it sticks out like tremendously above another layer. You're only stacking extra layers to push it up above the layer underneath it. Okay, so you're going to glue down. Like I said, less is more. So I know that this is going to be end up glued down on my face piece. I only want one layer. A little bit of glue is all you need. So I'm going to do a piece here and a piece here and maybe one in the center. Just a little bit of glue, set that aside, let it dry. So you're going to keep doing this with all the pieces. I want to talk about, some of the specialized pieces, the smaller pieces, you're going to have to cut thinner pieces of the corrugated cardboard. So here's kind of like something I want to point out. So you see how we see the ridges of the corrugated cardboard here, right? So if I cut a thin piece in this direction, I maintain all those little pieces of the corrugated cardboard. I still have all those ridges. If I cut a thin piece, not across this, but across this direction, what I end up doing is cutting through the corrugation, the little ridges, and my pieces fall apart. So kind of pay attention to, you don't want to be cutting this way for thin pieces, you want to be cutting like across the corrugation layer. And some pieces you might have 2 layers of spacers, so glue those. You could glue them together first and then glue them onto the paper, or you can, glue them on top of each other as you work. The key is you want to make sure that they have time to set up. And then one of mine, I actually have 3 layers because I've decided that the eye, because this one is 1 layer, the circle, the ring around my eye is going to be 2 layers, and I've decided to make this eye center pop out. So when I put this together, it's going to be 3 layers. Okay? So the goal for the end of this class is to have all of your pieces all glued up. You can see all of my pieces all have spacers on them. Okay? Lots and lots and lots of pieces, lots and lots of spacers, okay? And my mask form. Lay them out like this and show me your work. So you're going to take a picture of this to say, hey, Miss Listella, look at me. I finished all of this and I got all of these spacers glued onto here. Okay? I'm going to stop.